everybody. It's Sunday night, so it's time for another episode of Explain Yourself. One of these days, we'll get our intro to work again, but until then, it's good to see everybody.
Yeah, that's weird. We're having some technical difficulty, but what's up?
Joey,
Welcome to the
going,
show.
Man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, man? It's been a couple weeks since I seen you, but man, I'm excited to be here to talk about some new comics that are kickstarting right now. Should we just get to it so we can just get into the goodness?
I think we can. Let's bring in our guests. We have Radd and Kayln Fultz. How's it going, guys? Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah. So these guys have some great books to talk about. Kayln, we'll start with you. Give us the quick elevator pitch for Shade.
Okay. Shade, the Shadow Saga, follows Agent Shade and his team of supernatural spies as they're tasked with a mission to uncover a vessel of supernatural from another realm. And their arrogance, their greed blind them from their true mission. And these consequences ensue. This sends them on a path of transformation and new power. And it's going live now. It's live now. So, tap in. We'll see what's going on.
Yeah, and everybody, if you're watching this on YouTube, the links are right in the description, so you can just scroll down there and go right over to any of these campaigns and some of the other ones we'll talk about as well. Judah, tell us a little bit about Sharon 13.
Hey, so it's funny. You have spies, I have spies, but where you have kind of like a fantaspy, I have kind of a spy-fi thing going on. Sorry. So Karin 13, The Price of Eternity, it's a galaxy-spanning tale of espionage, war, romance, and adventure, seasoned with a generous helping of high-concept cosmic dread. So, if you enjoy like stuff like James Bond and Star Wars, but then also enjoy like sort of existential dread along the lines of Mass Effect and Lovecraftian horror, this is for you. As kind of a fan of all these things, it's kind of the story that I feel like I was born to tell.
That's very similar. That's very similar. Like you said, spy-fi, and because James Bond was a big inspo for mine, but it's more of the Indiana Jones mixed with that. And so those were movies that I grew up loving, absolutely loving. And that was like the foundation of my build for this spy adventure story.
Which Bond actor would you most associate with your story?
Probably Sean Connery. Myself or my story?
Either. Open-ended.
Connery, but I like all of them. Obviously right now, like we're in leaving the Daniel Craig era. And I really like those movies. I'm not a fan of the way they ended it, but whatever. We're getting off topic.
Cool. I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about James Bond as we get into both of these, because it's like you said, very similar books in a lot of genre ways. So I'm sure we'll bring that up. But Kayln, let's jump back over to you. We're going to bring up your campaign, and I'm going to ask you a few more questions about Shade.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I've seen a little bit of this book. It's very cool stuff. Reminded me of a lot of things. I love the character designs. I love the artwork. And I kind of like the premise you've set up here. Tell me a little bit more about what was your, aside from James Bond, but we can get it back into 007 if you want. What were some of the influences that went into the comic here?
Indiana Jones, man. Indiana Jones and Hellboy were really big influences on me. I love Hellboy, that whole supernatural, fighting, the stuff bumping in the night, and the supernatural aspect, keeping it quiet and kind of working with the government. It's kind of like an off the grid, off the books, unit that kind of blurs the line of, working with the government and just making sure everything's contained. And so that was really something I was always drawn to. But the Indiana Jones adventure, the supernatural kind of like little sprinkles, it's Indiana Jones. That was a big influence for me. Just that first scene, as he's going through the temple, finding, getting that relic, and that really was a lot of inspiration of that. This my first issue 1. So the action adventure really comes from my love of the Indiana Jones series.
Yeah, that's been a huge influence on my books. I think that if you look at just pure action and adventure stuff, the way they set up that character in the first movie and in all of them really, is such a great balance of, he's kind of good at things, but he's not great. He gets in over his head. About 3 things go wrong during a fight that he has to then, think on his feet and react to. And I think that thinking about action scenes really has been a big thing that informs me on my comics. And I think it's a really good template for putting together adventure stories. You've got a character that's got some room to grow, but he's not like a novice. Doesn't have huge problems, but there's a little bit of like in between. He's not the flawless hero. And I think that's an awesome thing to look at when you're putting together your stories. I think everybody's heroes in their stories, for the most part, in a lot of the most story templates, it really works well to bring that stuff in. Tell us
very much agree.
I mean, you mentioned the setup of the team and everything. What's the specific plot here that they're dealing with in issue number 2?
So issue number 2 kind of it starts basically right where issue 1 leaves off. Agent Shade is going through a bunch of tests. There's tests running on him because of some things that happened in 1. We need to figure out what's going on with him. What happened? There's this mysterious force running through him. Is it going to change? Is it going to change him? Is he still going to be able to do his duties as a spy? Is he still fit for duty? Is he still fit for active field duty? And so he's going to be going through these tests, and that's going to really, really annoy him. And he's going to feel like things are being kept from him. Why are my superiors? Why are my the head honchos keeping me away from what's really going on here? And he starts to get the feeling that he's being set up. And so issue 2 is really a dive into him and more of that James Bond paranormal espionage. And so I call this paranormal espionage, and so it gets really into that spy, mystery. And we're right there along with Shade. We don't know what's going on, just like he doesn't. So we're following along and learning just like he is.
Very cool. Yeah, I get a little bit of a Skyfall vibe from what you're describing. Like, and I don't know if you guys are really into James Bond. I think probably
Yes.
a little bit. Have you guys read the novels, specifically Man with the Golden Gun?
No, I haven't. I do dabble in the comics, but I have not read the actual the novels. No.
Well, actually, they adapted Man with the Golden Gun into the old 60s newspaper strip comics. They're drawn by this artist named Lawrence, I want to say Hordak or Hovac or something like that. It's close to that. It's really cool. Like, it looks like 60s advertising line work. It's really slick and of the era. But they adapt the story almost verbatim. And whether you're reading the novel or the comic adaptation, the whole idea is he's been messed up from his previous mission. He probably isn't fit for duty, but they decide to send him out anyway just to see if he can, he wants to go out and see what he can still do. And that's kind of the subtext of the whole story. Besides just the action, I got to go find this guy and beat him. It's also like, does he still have what it takes? And I think that's a really good way to balance, your character and his internal struggles with, the plot, sort of A to B, what needs to happen here. That's something I think is really important to have in almost any comic, especially when you're doing a comic like we all do, which is, we're introducing new characters, new worlds to readers. That's not something based on 30 years of continuity they've been collecting. So we really have to get in there on the ground floor and not only make the plot compelling, but the characters compelling. And I think it sounds like you really set this up so you can do that.
Yeah, try my best.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about this guy with the red beard. Is he the villain, or is he kind of like M?
So the guy with the red beard, that's Drake Ducard. He's one of our supernatural spies as well. He was born and raised in the Guild of Shadows. He's what's called a legacy. Shade is a recruit, as well as Lady Yuri, the lady with the mask. So Drake Ducard is kind of like he's the guy that's thrown with Shade and kind of has to show Shade the ropes, and this is how we do things. And at the point that we meet them, they've gone on plenty of missions. They've got plenty of background. They've got history. And so he's that grumpy, big gun, bad attitude. He's not taking any crap at all, because he's been basically born and bred as a killing machine from this elite assassin society from day one. His forefathers were founding members of the Guild of Shadows.
Very cool. I love his look. It's got a lot of 80s cartoon to it. Both with the claw and just the sort of eye patch apparatus thing that glows. It's really cool to see. It reminds me a little bit of the first Mad Max movie, the guy that's like the police chief. That's kind of the gruff, good guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I kind of looked at this guy and it reminded me more of him than anything. I'm like, I bet he's not the villain. I bet he's a good guy. And I think that it's always cool when your heroes have this edge to them.
Yeah.
Your supporting cast as well. And I think this really kind of has that, as well as and I think this is true of all your designs. They're pretty simplified in a way that makes them easy to get into. Like, I look at these characters and I really know what I'm in for, in a way that's it's good when you're starting from scratch with the story. You kind of need to just see these guys and not have to do too much explaining.
It's very reminiscent of Valiant comics, right? Like that kind of world, where it's big, huge, and it's got these layers, right? And I love that. So, and then especially you got some of these character designs, right? So I want to know, was that some of your was that what you were kind of going for? Were you influenced by the Valiant comics, the Valiant
dude, Ninja K, dude, yeah, I love it. Fucking sorry, excuse me.
You're good.
Yeah, Ninja K. I love Valiant comics. That really kind of I've got a bunch. Why am I blanking on
Bloodshot?
Yeah, there we go. Those were influences, and I did want, the character designs, the aesthetic to speak for themselves. I really wanted you to just be able to see these characters like, all right, that's the big gun. Okay. That's the silent ninja, okay. This is the melee hard hitting, hand-to-hand combat expert. I really wanted their design
a little bit of G.I. Joe in there.
Yeah, exactly. They're combat ready, so I did really take from Valiant.
Yeah.
So I have a question, guys. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Okay, this is just to go back to the Valiant stuff. This is really bothering me. For all these years, I've been saying Ninjak. Is it Ninja K?
It is now, yeah.
Oh my god, my life is a lie.
Wait, have I been saying it wrong?
I don't know.
I always thought it was Ninjak too.
I still say Ninjak, but
well, because there's other ninjas in there, and there's ninjas,
true,
whatever.
There's the previous ones, yeah.
It's like 008, 009.
That's hilarious. The things you do, the things you know.
It's just never occurred to me, but it makes. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Kayln, this layout is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna refer to. Like this is part of it too, right? Like I think Kayln's kind of, you've created the layout, the boxes, the panels, and you made that a whole character unto itself. So tell us a little bit about why this misty kind of texture that you have around each of these panels with green tones to it.
Okay, so this is the transdimensional mist. This is the power that is in the pyramid of mirrors, which is the relic that they are sent to retrieve. Now, some things go wrong, some things go awry, as they do. And like I said, greed and arrogance get in the way, and the mysterious mist, now not so mysterious, is released. And so these are the things that are kind of affecting and changing our characters and sending them on a new path. And so this sequence here, this opening sequence of issue 2, is really to get across that things are changing, things are happening, and this is a sequence that will transition into and kind of help you realize what Shade is going through. This is kind of like to help you see what is in his mind, what he is what torment he's happening, what's going through right now. The transdimensional mist is very much a character and will play a tremendous role in this series.
I love that.
Very cool. Very excited about this one. I love how it looks, and yeah, just it's a very cool looking book. But let's
Shout
jump
out to
over, Judah, to you.
Sandman. Shout out to Shant Sandman because that was a real big inspo for these
Wow.
layouts.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
Kaylin, I'm definitely backing this. Looks sick.
You're the man. You're
Yeah.
the man.
Looks awesome.
Thanks, brother. Thanks.
So Judah, let's jump over to Charon 13. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
You're not, but that's okay because that's what everyone says it. It's Charon 13.
Charon. Okay.
Or Charon. You can say that too. I don't know. I'll leave it up to the reader. Yeah, it's so this is part 2 of a planned 5-issue arc of a planned 15-issue series. I know that's kind of ambitious, but it is a complete story into it in and of itself. So just want everyone to know that. Yeah, so this is a story that I built kind of it sounds corny. It started with a dream. It was like a late night night dream, I guess, like as I was drifting off to sleep. But the last issue was an introduction of like the characters, the world, and the overall vibe, which I wanted to turn space into like East and West Berlin. So it's like a future Cold War setting with a lot of tension. And, there's history, there's war, there's a history of like violent conflicts happening in the Milky Way in the distant future. And this is kind of like the not so peaceful peace that exists between conflicts. Your main character, Charon 13, he's I guess you could say he's like a 00 kind of guy. You have the United Systems Coalition, and he's like part of a very small elite team of like the best secret agents that can exist. And so the last issue, you saw him infiltrate a kind of like a gala on a space station belonging to the Galactic Mining Federation, and they're like kind of like I guess you could call them the villains of the story. Although the intent, as the story progresses, is for them to become a lot more complicated, and for the lines between like who's in the right, who's in the wrong, to get blurrier and blurrier. But yeah, in this issue, he takes on a mission. He's going to be teamed up with Captain Lewis, a character that we met in the last issue. She's his boss. So the character's highly inspired by James Bond. Lazenby, by the way. I know that's kind of that's a rarity, but more of a Lazenby-esque kind of Bond, where I wanted him to be badass and cool in all the ways that James Bond is, but I also wanted him to have like an extra layer of like humanity, vulnerability. Like he's kind of afraid of his boss, and he also really wants her to like him. He's not always 100% convinced that he's on the right side of the conflict, and he has moral dilemmas that occur as the story progresses.
Very cool. I love the two main characters. I mean, aside from the influence we talked about, which we can get back into, I guess the two main characters kind of gave me a Valerian and Loreline vibe a little bit. If you're familiar with that stuff.
I'm not.
Okay.
What is it? Maybe
it's a French comic. There was actually a movie a few years ago. I think Valerian in the City of a Thousand Planets.
Yeah.
It's kind of
they're
kind of space secret agents, and the comics actually are big influence on the Fifth Element. If you've seen that. I did read the in call, but the vibe of like this world, I took a lot of heavy inspiration from the Fifth Element, because in the Fifth Element, there's like a familiarity to the environment, and there's like things that you see and you're like, oh, people still get takeout. Oh, people still, do all these things. It's just different. It's future, So yeah, it's definitely going for that vibe. They're kind of in this issue, they're almost like a buddy cop team. So I'm kind of leaning into that trope a little bit. And that's how it seems like with my writing. That's like I can't just have like a guy alone. Like there has to be like a personality bounce between whatever characters that are my protagonists. This guy that you're looking at right now is did Kayln already break the bad word seal? He's a piece of shit. Yeah, but he's a really evil fucking villain. So I'm really excited for people to see just how bad he is. This female character on the top right, that is Belle, spelled B3LL. She's a neurosonic pop star. Those tubes that are connected to her brain take her thoughts and translate them into music and blasts them through the speakers.
So that's kind of a futuristic genre of music. If I were to guess what it sounds like, I'd say it's sort of like retro synthwave. Whatever she's singing right now, it sounds like "Take It to the Limit" from Scarface.
What's cool about, I think the way this is true, I think of both books we're talking about this week, but when you guys take genre stuff we're familiar with and tropes we're familiar with, I think that really frees you up to do really interesting things in the in-between spots, like what you're describing about the music. And that's the stuff I think that lets your readers just settle in, get comfortable, and move on to the things that are actually going to be interesting and striking, like what you're talking about here. Was that something you kind of set out to do with all the things you were pulling from with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's hard when, because I'm a nerd, you're a nerd, we're all nerds. Like we take in a lot of media that we love, and a lot of our output is a reconfiguration of what we love. Like ideas in, ideas out. So when I'm writing and I'm trying to make this thing happen, I try to be cognizant of the fact that a lot of what people are looking at immediately triggers like schemas in their mind of like things they're familiar with. But I always want to make sure that like on every level, it's different. It's same, but different. Like I want the influence. I try to be pretty transparent about the influences. Like I want people to look and be like, oh, okay. Just like it's like in Mass Effect, or, oh, it's like but I also like at no point do I want people to be like, okay, I've seen this before, So that's the hard part, sort of. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I think that's what you've got to do, is that you've got to kind of look at that stuff, and you don't want somebody to get to the end of it and be like, I just reread this other thing again, and with a different kind of coat of paint. But when you do that right, which is, I think you guys are both doing, it's like, yeah, we're using this to get across the shorthand, to get to the good stuff. And I think, truly nobody's doing something that's completely original.
Right.
Maybe Alan Moore sometimes, but everybody else is kind of playing in the same playground. And I think it's just a matter of kind of thinking to yourself, okay, this is what I'm doing. It's how it's going to come across. I've just got to be smart about it and really focus on what value, the reader's going to get from this. Because we want to use this stuff also, I think, and we'll probably get into this more when Joey's asking you some marketing questions, like how do you use that stuff to really signal to your readers, hey, if you like this stuff, you're going to like this. And then make sure you deliver on that promise in cool ways that keep everybody coming back.
Right.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, and I guess this is kind of about how you worked with your artist. I love the colors in this one. It really has not just the coloring, I guess, or colors choices per se, but the really kind of intense rendering style you have on it. It reminds me of, I can't remember the guy's name, but he did a lot of X-Men stuff about 2010 for Marvel, where it was just really modeled, kind of airbrushy, and gave you a lot of highlights. Did you kind of look at some stuff to come up with that look, or did your colorist and artist just kind of team up and this is what they got back to you? So
I had a pretty specific idea of what I wanted, but I didn't really have a very clear reference. I described it. So when we got to the coloring, I was working with, my team, my colorist is Martina Rossi. She's done work with Bad Bug with Mike Tenner, and then she also worked with Tim Fling. She does a lot of pretty awesome work in the indie scene. When I saw her work, I was like, that's the one. So I kind of just wanted her to do what I've seen, like how I've seen her do it in the past. But the prompt I gave her was like, I want this to, every time we're on this one planet, I want it to feel like an 80s music video. So that's like kind of, I guess, the color inspiration there. But no, I didn't give her, it's interesting. For the line art, I did sort of give references. But for this, I didn't really give any specific like comic book references for the colors. No, it's cool. It's got, it's very cinematic. I mean, just in terms of like, it's not too saturated. But I really like when, especially with indie books, because you kind of normally, and this is something I guess is not bad because we have to work with budgets and it's hard to put something together. But it's really nice when you get in there and see something just super rendered out the way you're kind of used to seeing in a Marvel or a DC book. You want to deliver something that's swinging for the fences a little bit, and I think that this artwork definitely does that. And then if you just look at this page, the way you're switching back and forth between, something happened on another planet, it comes across really well. It's very clear, and it just lets you cover some story ground pretty quickly as well, I think. Yeah, it's the hardest. I don't know. I haven't really talked to anyone about this before, but for me at least, the hardest pages to write are conversations, because it's like, how do I avoid 6 talking heads on the page. You know what I mean? So I try to like overlap a lot of story and a lot of like maybe not action happening in the present, but action happening while the exposition and dialogue is occurring. But yeah, I thank you for pointing that out. Like I agree. Like she did a really good job of making the flashbacks here distinct from the present, and cinematic is kind of exact. It's like exactly. If I had a nickel for every time I use the word cinematic in our little collaborator chat, but like that was definitely a big theme of like what I've gone for with this series.
No, it definitely reads that way. And I mean, I also, and I think we talked about this with Shade a little bit too, but I love the uniform designs, especially with this guy here. It's just really cool stuff. I can see a lot of Mass Effect there. Was there any other stuff you guys were looking at when you came up with a kind of look at these characters and the weapons?
So these concept, the concept art is actually Alessandra Imperio, who I worked on with issue 1. The schedules didn't work out, so she wasn't able to come back for issue 2. So this line artist is Nico Quimi, and he actually did the cover for issue number 1. So it's still keeping the team as like tight as possible. But yeah, a lot of the not really cool concepts that we see here are stuff that she developed. Like this character in the middle, looking at the supernova. That's Sugar Pill. That's her code name. We'll learn her real name in the issue. But she has, her cultural background. She comes from a planet that has been fighting off raiders for generations. And she has these kind of blue tattoos on either side of her face, which is characteristic of that culture that she comes from. And that, I mean, I can only, I'm a writer. I don't make the magic happen. It was really Alessandra that kind of like, she knew that I wanted something distinctly cultural about her appearance, and she came up with that. And I thought it was really cool. But yeah, that Colonel definitely Mass Effect vibes, and at least half the references I gave her when we were first coming up with the concept art was Mass Effect.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, I think it shows in a good way. It's just enough of it to be clear and to be fun, and then not too much you're like seeing a retread where you feel like this looks like this place that I remember. The last question I had for you on the creative side was, it seems like you have really thought this world out in terms of like what real life history you're drawing on, different worlds, different situations, characters coming from. How much of this world do you have planned out? And are you going to get into a lot of that in future stories or like spin-offs from the main story?
So again, with Sugar Pill, who, if you can't tell, I love, she's definitely going to have a spinoff. But as far as like the world building goes, yeah, I wanted, so my favorite sci-fi, my favorite type of sci-fi is sci-fi where, it's like, don't get me wrong, I love Star Wars, but I don't really consider it sci-fi. Like the effort in Star Wars goes towards character development and drama. It doesn't really go towards like, how does hyperdrive work? Like if you watch Star Wars, it's like, oh, they're just going really fast,
It just happens.
But that's like, I mean, anyone who's like kind of a like a Neil deGrasse Tyson type buff knows like that ain't going to be how it works if it ever works, So I came up with, I have kind of a like a Google Drive page where it's just a bunch of like techno nonsense for me, but where I try to solve every problem. So I did come up with a way for interstellar travel to work. I came up with kind of like an industrial framework for how the economics of this universe works. Now, what I didn't do is I didn't really explain that stuff in the comic, but it makes me feel better knowing I have an answer when it comes up. So I didn't want there to be any big like techno dumps of like, well, first we're going to separate the entangled particles and send them into deep space, and then a re-entanglement's going to like none of that. It's just, you might hear a computer explaining what it's doing in the moment that it's doing it. And if you ever want to delve deeper, then you could potentially learn like how it's supposed to work. As far as like the spin-offs in the future goes. So, right now we're at a specific phase of the game. Like right now, this is fun. It's action packed, and it has, that kind of cool, like vibe that the reason everybody here probably likes James Bond, but that's why I kind of want to say that, like, while this is the fun phase, there's almost a genre change that's going to occur later in the series. And it is hinted at in this series, but when I gave you my 30-second elevator pitch, I talked about cosmic dread, and that's kind of my favorite thing about space is this idea that we're, hypothetically, or not hypothetically, metaphorically, we're swimming in like this brackish water where we can't even see the bottom. And do you remember that like that Jaws poster where you see the woman swimming at the top and then underneath is like this giant shark that's like closing in on her? That's kind of how I envision space. Like we're so loud, we're broadcasting our signals, we're light pollution, like we're brazen and like our hubris when it comes to space. Like we think we own it. And the truth is, who knows what's watching and who knows why, you know, but like it's scary. You think about like we're in this massive dark room. We're in a bigger dark room than you could ever imagine on Earth, and we can't see shit. You know what I mean? The stars are so far away. We're seeing blurry, you know, I'm sorry, I'm going on a ramble about it. Sorry, but it's,
man.
But
That's the dark forest theory, right? It's like we
space
should
is
be quiet and
terrifying.
keep our heads
Yeah,
down.
don't make me think about it.
Yeah. So
Don't
that's gonna.
watch Three Body Problem. You're
Oh,
not gonna
I
watch
love-
it.
No, I've been watching the History Channel the last few nights, and we were so you know some of those shows on there are a little out there, and you're scaring me. So hold on, before we keep moving, we're gonna talk a little bit more about some stuff. We're gonna take a quick break here, and we're gonna play a video from our friends over, our partners, our new partners over at All Ages of Geek. I'm sorry, I've got the word age in my head all day. Between Age of Radio and All Ages of Geek. But our friends over at All Ages of Geek, we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about the partnership on the other side of the video here. And then we're going to finish up with Judah Radd. We're going to talk a little bit more about the marketing side of things and on the other side. So let's go ahead and play that video.
Click that mouse and warp into All Ages of Geek's website, your ultimate portal to everything geek culture. Here you'll find articles that speak your language, from the latest anime buzz to the coolest tech trends. Our mission? To celebrate geekdom in all its glory. Whether you're a gamer, a comic enthusiast, a 90s kid, or an anime aficionado, we've got something for you. Dive deep into them with All Ages of Geek.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We're still here with Kayln and Judah Radd. We're going to be talking to you guys a little bit more about marketing side of things. But before we do, we want to tell you guys a little bit about the partnership that we have with All Ages of Geek. What we're going to do with them is we're going to work with them to they're going to be doing some stuff for us for our magazine that we publish, which is called Archetypes, where they're going to be doing some stuff periodically with us on each and every magazine. And also because they have a really cool website with all that really cool stuff that they just talked about in that ad, where all kinds of geeks from all over the place can come and gather up, and you guys can consume some really cool stuff there. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be giving them first dibs on all of the cool clients that we take on and the creators that we help boost their campaigns. They're going to help us boost those campaigns as well with articles, with podcast episodes, with interviews and write-ups and things of that nature through their website, as well as boosting us on our social medias all over the place, and good things like that. And we're going to do that same things for them. So stay tuned. We're having meetings with them next week to iron every single thing out and get it written down on paper, but it's going to be freaking fantastic for everybody. So make sure you guys are checking out All Ages Geek. Head on over to allagesgeek.com and geekcollective.net and find out all the cool stuff that we can do for you guys. We help you from creation of your comic book from concept to shelf and everything in between. And so please reach out to us and let us know if there's anything that we can do for you guys. So with all that said, I don't like to take too much time because this is all about you guys. I want Judah Radd, you had some stuff that you needed to finish up, and I want you to be able to finish your conversation there, but I want to get into some of the marketing side of these things and how you came to these different price points. There you go. You're unmuted, hopefully. No, still muted.
No, yeah, it's,
Test.
There we go.
man. There we go. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So marketing wise, so I had this awesome dude edit this video for me, a guy named Benjamin W. Morse, and it came out really nice.
I know that guy.
Yeah. So marketing wise, you asked about price points. Honestly, this is going to be a boring answer, but I back a lot of Kickstarters. I'm a super backer. not to brag or anything, but so I just kind of modeled it. The $10 Kickstarter single issue is pretty standard, so I went with that. This is a sustain operation for me. Like, every book I'm just trying to make enough to fund my next book. So I'm really not trying to gouge people. Like I keep it pretty reasonable because I'd rather have more people read. I'd rather have people get the $5 digital if they just want to read it than have like my mom get like the top tier. You know what I mean? So it's like, really, I just want people to read it.
So how do you come up with these price points? Are you the kind of person that's like, okay, I need to know where I'm going to print first, so that I know that I have, if I hit a certain point of units that I gotta print per unit, and then you calculate all that up, and then you come up with your goal, and then you do the averages out. Are you one of those people?
Yep. Yeah, that is what I do. I do that with the add-ons, like with the poster prints and the enamel pins and stuff. Like, it's like I imagine how many people I think are going to order. I go through the actual website and like build the order, and then I just divide it by that many people, and then maybe like add a buck or two just so that I make a profit. But yeah, I mean, I'm not like a super savvy businessman, so I just kind of do my best to make sure that like I'm making it the right price. Some stuff is obviously like seriously marked up, like getting listed in the book as a producer, like it's pretty low overhead for that one. But that, I don't know if that answers your question, but
totally. Kayln, how about you? I know we helped you with your campaign and
That's
things of that nature, but I know you've done things like this in the past.
Yeah, man. So yeah, this is my very first Kickstarter. So I really almost had no idea what I was doing. So, and like you said, you all helped me. Shout out to Geek Collective for really helping me, with these price points, and kind of helping me decide what they should be and what's fair for the reader. And it was a lot like like Radd said, seeing what other creators are doing, and being a comic collector myself, and knowing what's worth a comic, and when I go and download a comic versus going into your local comic store and getting a comic, I really kind of kept that in mind. And also like what I'm putting into and paying these artists. These artists have to be paid. These artists have to be compensated for their hard work, because if they're not, then we don't have these beautiful awesome pieces of art that we get to take home and read and digest and keep forever, or trade to the next guy or what have you. So yeah, not really don't know if that answers your question, but you all really kind of set me in the right way. So anybody watching that's wondering, these guys will really take care of you and help you figure out what's fair, and take it to the next step.
Yeah, I think that's one of those big things, right? You got to make sure that you're keeping things fair. You got to understand the market at least a little bit to know where to price these things, because it's a lot of market research. It's a lot of backing other people's campaigns. It's also it's always really great to calculate all your averages out and see and get it down to the point to where you're like, okay, each average backer needs to spend at least $25, and then I need to hit 200 people or 300 people to backing at that price in order to reach this whatever goal that means, right? So and it's a little difficult, right? Because you hear that like, oh, can I really sell this to 200 people, right? And then on Kickstarter, it's really hard sometimes too, because you have to sometimes drop your goals. I know Judah, this is how many have you done at this point, Judah?
This is just number 2 for me.
Number 2?
I learned a lot of lessons from the first one, though, specifically what I think you're getting into about like promoting from other platforms. Or
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so one thing that I sort of noticed in the first time around, so it went pretty well. I raised 6,000 with 167 backers, which I was super happy with. Super grateful. But one thing I noticed is people don't leave Facebook, people don't leave Instagram, people don't leave Twitter. These apps are designed to keep people on those apps. So when I'm out there blasting out my link, like, please look at my comic, buy my comic, like they, people click it, it takes them to that weird browser that exists within the app that they're not even logged in on. And then they're like, okay, maybe another time. So like I feel like a big part of the trick is like appealing to like where you're going to make I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have the experience that everybody else here has, but where you're really going to make your money is people seeing it on the actual like For You portion of Kickstarter itself, because they're already on the app.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, right? And Kickstarter's the same way, right? And they have this algorithm that keeps you boosted and keeps people within the app too, right? The more things that you back, they're going to start showing you the same things, and you're going to be getting emails for different things with different people that you follow. If they like things, it's a whole like you do all kinds of different things. Every app has their own algorithm that is made to keep you there and to continue to funnel you through their sales, right? And it's all what we're trying to do too. We're trying to create a sales funnel. They're trying to create a sales funnel with us in it. So it's like it's this ongoing thing that we always have to think about that you didn't think about when you got into this industry. You're like, I just wanted to write, or I just wanted to draw, but now you're like having to really think about this business side of things. And sometimes it's like trying to figure out how to reinvent the wheel, and it's a little scary sometimes, right? And not everybody is like, there's no wrong answer, and I think that it works, right? For and you got to understand your base when you create your base, and you got to build your base, and then cater to your base. So I want to know, Kayln, I know you've done some very unique stuff. I know this is your first time out the gate with this book, and it's gorgeous. You've got digital deluxe. You also have physical deluxe copies of this thing, and you also kind of did this local campaign around your own hometown where you hit up these comics spots, or you hit up like didn't you do like a little brewery thing or something like that, a little hangout?
Yeah, so I'm very well connected in the creative art scene here in Louisville. I'm very connected to all the comic book shops in here, in Louisville. Support your local comic store. I used to work in a comic book shop for like years. Have a very good relationship with all the local shops, in town, and so here in Louisville, the creative scene is very thriving. So I'm always doing pop-ups. I'm always setting up, and selling comics and putting my brand out there, putting my name out there, and connecting with other scenes, like the music scene, and just all types of scenes. And so I like to put on shows and bring in live art. I have the cover artist actually for Shade 2. I have him come in, and he does some bang up live art while I've got my friends on stage doing music, and I'm selling comics in the back. And so it's really about just ingratiating yourself into your local scene as well, because you are an artist, and that base are those people, are those people that know you and see you and want to support you. And so your local art scene is always something that is always going to be a recycling effect, and to support and help you, and you support them, they support you, and it's a wonderful thing.
That's super cool. I love that. That's one of those things that a lot of us, listen, I'm gonna say this out loud. I might be a little agoraphobic, right? I don't like going outside, and the only time I like to go outside is to maybe go pick up my comic book pool, right? And so it's like, and so I understand some people are a little reluctant to kind of get out of their shell and kind of get out there and do the thing. It like, you don't know how many people I've seen that like sitting at their table, and they just sit there and head down, drawing, or they don't really interact with people. And I'm like, if you guys really want to sell your books, you got to get out there and interact and talk to these people and sell your stuff, right? because if they're looking in your direction, don't let them walk by without telling them your pitch. So it's a lot of this stuff that you never really thought about, or you have to take yourself out of your shell a little bit. Judah, I want to know a little bit about how you've kind of stepped out of your shell with the second one versus the first one.
It's a good question. I would say I've been doing more networking and like I don't know if the old update swap style kind of like you shine a light on my thing, I shine a light on your thing kind of thing, and that's really just reaching out into the community. I've it's I would consider doing a podcast to be stepping out of my shell because I'm not really like I'm not it's like I think I'm also like, especially since the pandemic, it's like harder for me to like people for a long time, like not so it's it's a challenge, like not that I don't like it, but it's like takes a little bit more energy. So I've been trying to put myself out there and like maybe reach out to some people that don't normally read comics, and then just leveraging my communities. One thing I sort of have in my favor is I used to do a podcast called I Freaking Love Comics. We kind of built like a community around us. So we still have that community. We still have like a Discord server, and we still have people in like our Facebook groups and stuff. So I've really kind of leaned into that, and kind of everybody's probably sick of hearing about my thing, but blasting them with like, here's a cool sketch. Here's an awesome thing Nico drew. Here's an awesome thing that Martina colored. Here's Jeremiah's letter. Like showing people like little bits and pieces to try to build up some kind of excitement. So yeah. So yeah. I guess that's kind of my answer.
Yeah, totally. Ben, you got anything?
I'm not too much to add to that. I mean, I guess my approach has been so scattershot. Almost every time I've done something, I've kind of gone about it differently. My first campaign worked out really well, and it built up pretty organically for mostly Twitter and Facebook. Bringing that to Kickstarter, had a little bit more trouble the second time, and then put a little more energy into it the third. And I switched to a different platform, Zoop, for some books, and then I'm now back on Kickstarter. And I feel like every time I've sort of learned a little bit more, but I've never quite had the time, or just for the way circumstances worked out, to put all that together into a campaign. And until the next one, hopefully I can able to do that. But I think it's a matter of just learning all sorts of things. I think, Judah, what you said before about all these platforms, they're designed to keep you on there. And I think that's something I've learned a lot of in the last year, is like, you do, when I'm highlighting my stuff, I have to kind of get it out of my head that this is going to take you right there with like minimum friction. That's not what it's designed to do. So to make content that's engaging on those platforms, and hopefully 1 out of 10 people see something they like enough to go and just Google it or find the link, because that's really what we're looking for, is to be as engaging on wherever we're reaching people, be that a comic convention, a local event, or on Twitter or Facebook, to kind of build up a connection. And you're only going to do that with people that are really into what you do, and that you've managed to reach out to and engage with. So I think it's just kind of a matter of, for me at least, it's been looking at a lot of what I've done right and wrong, and just trying to collect what's worked out there, what surprised me especially, and then putting that together into a campaign that works when it all works out, that you can do it that way.
Which you said you've used multiple crowdfunding platforms. Which one would you say was like the best or the most successful?
Well, Kickstarter has definitely been most successful for a lot of reasons. The other one I was on, it was good that I could kind of have them handle a lot of the building and the campaign and dealing with backers. But the bad part of that was I didn't have as much control over the project as I did when I was on Kickstarter. So I think it's certainly a matter of going into it with, you're looking at like, hey, how much time do I have? How good am I at certain things? Does it make sense for me to have someone else do this in exchange for some of the project the proceeds? Or does it make sense to keep it all under one roof and do it yourself? So I think that's something each creator comes to from a different spot, and says, if you can look at yourself honestly and say, all right, I'm great at this, but I kind of suck here. So it's really just a matter of what fits best with you. The one thing I'll say that I think is really important, and I think probably everyone here knows, but maybe it's worth repeating, is Kickstarter right now is the biggest platform. It's got the most quote unquote foot traffic. And I think that's really important right now, especially since crowdfunding it's still a pretty new thing, even though it's been around for a while. I think more and more each year, people are getting used to getting their comics that way. And as long as that's the case, I think it's good to have a platform that people understand is like the main one, and are comfortable with. And I think that's why, at least for me, that's why I'm back at Kickstarter.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, and I think when it comes to funding and things of that nature, we're subject to, not only are we subject to consumer trends on Kickstarter, right? We're subject to consumer trends in the world, right? Because this summer I was looking at things, and I know, if you guys have been doing this for a while and you've seen other people, I know Judy, you're a super backer, so I'm sure you've seen campaigns are funding at a lower rate this summer than they did compared to last year. Even my I'm even looking at my business. What's weird is we've made more money than last year as a business, but each month has been like work has not come in at the rate as it did last year, kind of a thing. And it's like what the heck, man? And it's crazy, right? So we were getting clients, and which means the more clients we had, the more Kickstarters that we were helping fund, and they were coming in at a faster rate. Where this time, where they're coming in and there's not as many Kickstarters coming in and being funded out there, and then on top of that all, they're funding at a lower rate than they did prior, right? And I've seen that because if you're looking at the trends that we're subject to with all the things, because we have to go buy different things out there, obviously the necessities, but on top of it all, 2024 was the best year that everybody's ever had. They've had a little bit more money in their pockets. I know people want to talk about the economy's bad and all this stuff, but if you're looking at the numbers on paper, it's on paper, and it's showing that people have more money in their pockets this year than they did in the last 3 to 5 years prior. Obviously, COVID, and that's obvious, right? But it's showing that we're getting to a point to where we were prior to COVID. So because of that, people are starting to spend more in the summer. This summer was the most summer where everybody went to on vacation, and most tourist summer that they were saying, and more people were out there going, and so much that they had to like start throttling entrance fees by increasing the entrance fees. And it was really nuts how crazy they said that this year has been with people consuming different things, which means if they're purchasing outside of their home, they are not going to be purchasing on Kickstarter, right? So if they're going to be purchasing more things out there and doing the fun things like they are now not looking at Kickstarter, because they're not saying, okay, this is the fun thing I need to buy. So we have to be careful with when we are funding our books, and when we are all right. So what my number one rule is when I talk to my friends and my clients is hit a target goal, right? But don't make that solidified in stone, because you got to watch your goals. Because if you have this target date and you see like 6 different huge people, dropping their Kickstarters in that month, like crap, this month, right? We had literally 3 or 4.
Valiant, bad idea.
Yeah.
And then not only them, we also have the people like Charlie Stickney and people like that, right? So we're just like, holy crap. Now, I don't want to sit here and be one of those people that says they're taking my money, but people love comics. So if there's 4 different ones with some big names, they're gonna not spend four times in our campaigns. They're going to spend it over there, and they might hold back. Maybe they'll grab our stuff, but they're going to wait it out, because this stuff might not be there. We're going to be there because they can rely on us being there. So they're going to wait this campaign out, possibly, right? So we got to be careful and always watch our base, watch what they're doing, watch what people are doing outside. Judy, you look like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you're making, because I think you're right, but also it's like the opposite of my thought process when I knew that there were a lot of big Kickstarters happening around that time, and sometimes I don't know which influence is larger. Like, you have the one of like, well, big Kickstarters means there's more people in the store. So
they'll probably buy our stuff, right? But
then it's like, but they're spending their money on those big things, and I'm like, which of those two,
Yeah,
has the
exactly.
greater influence.
Like, because listen, I'll go because when I go to a shop, I'm gonna buy, I'll probably buy a DC book, I'll probably buy a Marvel book, but I'm also gonna walk out with a badass indie book, right?
Mhm.
So people are thinking about it like that too on Kickstarter or on crowdfunding, right? But the thing is, the more chances that they have to go buy somewhere else, they're gonna have more chances to go buy somewhere else. So we gotta just think of that, right? It's just a
Mhm.
thought. I want to make sure that you're thinking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think this is and maybe just a different way of thinking about it, because I've seen a lot of creators complain about Valiant and Bad Idea being on the platform, or Boom or something like that, and I certainly get the impulse. But I also think, I imagine being on the comic shop on a Wednesday, there's the table, or however your comic shop puts things out. Mine sets them all out flat.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty much the experience each week. There's 30, 50 books, and you're deciding which one, which, in my case, 4, so I'm going to take home. I
Right.
think Kickstarter, even when we do have the big companies in there, it gets us on that table, so to speak. And that's
Yeah.
something that, at least as somebody who's been putting together pitches and banging my head against the wall trying to get published, or
Mhm.
hired for, big 2 books for 20 years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the nice thing, you got to look at that situation being is, hey, at least my book is on that table, whether that's, it's a different platform, but it gives me a chance to get my stuff out there
Yeah.
that I just wasn't having to go through the traditional gatekeepers.
Totally. Yeah.
So
And I'm
there's
there
some
for
good
that,
and bad
right?
with that.
I'm cool with being on the same table that month, right? And that's why I don't really like complaining about it, but I do like to make sure that I'm aware of it, right? Because
Absolutely.
you got to be aware of it. Just like when you're in a shop and you see people, like if it was your shop, you see people buying stuff, but you know what I mean? Like, what are they going to buy, right? So they're going to buy something, but which one is it going to be mine today? So great, wonderful, I love that, but how do we break that, right? How do we break through to them? Ben, I want to know how you break through stuff like that. Like, how do you get seen on while you're on
Well,
that table?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing, I guess I have to say, and this is something I'm struggling with coming up with a good, way to do it, but I'm always first and foremost focusing on that project image, that 16:9 formatted thing. That's your thumbnail when you're scrolling through projects, and then it's the headline of your page once you click through there. I think that's essentially your book cover, and I found that when I first was doing my first Scarlet Twilight campaign, I had a really good cover that I liked. And it's like, this doesn't fit as well on the 16:9 thing. I found a way to make it work. But ever since then, I kind of said, hey, I was really putting the cart before the horse there. I think I need to find something that is a good headline image that also works as my cover, if I want those to be the same thing. I don't think you can overestimate that. And I've even heard creators talking about just commissioning people to do just that image.
Yeah, just that image. Yeah, which is smart, right? Because now you have that image. It's going to be the one that you plaster on everything, you put on everything. So maybe you make a cover out of it, maybe you don't. But there's the thing, right? And then you still have that artwork because you can always use it for whatever. But yeah, so you can do whatever you need to do. You can create something out of it. But yeah, you that's your big thing, right? Your title card, and you got to tell them what they're getting, what you want. So here's my thing. This is what I do, right? I you tell the title, you tell them what it is, or you have somewhere in there how many pages, if it's a graphic novel, or if it's a issue 1. You always want to make sure that even on that title page, even when they hit go click notify me on launch, because you only have a certain amount of characters, you want to still make sure that somewhere in there you're telling them what they're gonna get. That's basically what it is. What are they gonna get? Because that's all you have to sell them, that image and those under 200 characters, right? Like, that's all you got to do to sell them on that. And you got to make sure that those things count. And sometimes that's hard, right? And you get a little bit better at it as you go, and you figure out how to do it. But you're absolutely right, Ben. When it comes to that image, that's the first thing that people see, and you got to sell them on that right away.
Got some really good advice, like a while ago when I was doing my first campaign. And this guy, he does really well on Kickstarter, and I just reached out to him just because it was my first time, and I just had some questions. And he was telling me, don't worry about spoilers on your campaign page. Show your best, coolest pages. Doesn't matter about spoilers. Like, there's no one's going to be spoiled if they don't buy the book. So you kind of just want to give them the cool, you got a great splash page, put it there. You got an awesome layout with some climactic awesome parts. Like put it on there so people can basically, like you said, know what they're gonna get.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, and here's the thing, like this is another thing that people like to, they'd like to do it, or they don't like to do it, and it's like this, not this argument, but there's people on one side of the fence on this, and they're on the other side of the fence, right? You can always put pages up there without the lettering, so that people, you're not spoiling the storyline, right, or the dialogue, right? But then there's on the other side of that, they're like, wait, does that look like is that not finished? It looks like it's not, it's unfinished, right? So I guess you gotta weigh your cons with that, right, when it comes to your own kind of work there. We're a little over on time, and before we want to do that, we want to kind of I love this conversation, I love how it's going, but we only have a small period. We only have an hour for this show, but we want to talk about a handful of other campaigns that are live right now, so that we can do that. My son, he's texted me. He said he wants me to shout him out. So hi Zeke, what's up? So check it out. He's actually been jumping on YouTube lately and doing some YouTube stuff. So he's really excited about, like, he's actually surpassed me with like followers. He's like he's broke 100 followers, and I have like 50. So these kids are freaking awesome. I'm gonna get him to start doing my marketing very soon. So just be on the lookout for that, guys. So before we go, let's talk a little bit about some of these things that we're talking about that are live now. We have Shade that we're helping out, so I definitely want you guys to go get that one. And we have one from our friend Robert Moltari, which is a plushie. I know you guys out there love to sleep with plushies, right? This one's called Wolfpack the Night Wolf. I don't know if I gave you it should be in the links there. I'm sorry. Let me get you that.
Yeah, I didn't know about that one. Let's
yeah, so it's called Wolfpack Pups Night Wolf Werewolf plushie from Rob Multari. This one's fun, fun Halloween book for the kids, and I love this one because I've got small kids, and I recently bought this one last year. I don't have it with me because my son, every time that I grab it to like do some work, like promote it, my son takes it from me, and he's like, doesn't let me have it. So I'm just like, okay, guys. He loves the heck out of this thing. We bought one last year when Rob was doing this. It's a spinoff from his Night Wolf books, and but it's a cute, cuddly little plushie. It's a board book. I definitely love that. I just wanted to mention that one. I know some of our friends out there that are watching, if you guys got kids and you guys want something fun for Halloween, I have the one on the left, of the one that looks like a voodoo doll. We have that one with my son, or on the right there. And then the new one is the one in the red coats there, and they're really high quality. I think they're handmade quality products too. They passed all kinds of really cool tests. Like you have to pass, like they put these things on Amazon, so you have to pass those like child safety things in order to put something like this on Amazon. And they literally went all out with this campaign. So check this one out. And then I think the only other thing we have is your campaign, Ben. Everything else is notify and launch. You guys can head on over to our social media accounts and check out who we're promoting right now. There's tons of really cool ones coming up very soon. In October we have one coming out. We have issue 2 of Archetypes coming out as well. So make sure you guys are checking that out. Tell us, Ben, about your campaign that is live right now.
Okay. Yeah, August kind of had some timing issues, so we just tossed this one on Kickstarter. A little quicker, and in some cases a little, just the schedule didn't quite work out with plan. But this is essentially a hardcover of the first 4 issues of August, plus almost 100 pages or more of back matter and stuff that I developed over 10 years of putting the story together. So a lot like the other books we've been talking about today, this is a sci-fi kind of spy adventure with some Indiana Jones, Star Wars overtones. The hardcover is going to be great. I've got a few samples of the one we did for a previous version here. It's just a great volume you're going to have on your shelves. There's going to be a lot more of August in the future. So this will be the first one, but they're all going to look great on your shelf as they come out over the next few years. So if you're into Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and then kind of combining that with 80s properties like He-Man and Transformers and G.I. Joe, if you're a fan of that stuff, you're going to love this book. So if you can, head over to Kickstarter and check it out. And I do want to mention that My lowest reward is just the story, but that's the digital reward, and it's $3. And then the next one up is everything in a digital format, and it kept that one at 8. So really kind of fit for every budget. So hope you'll check that one out.
Totally. And he's not even giving me a free one, guys. He's making me pay for one. I swear.
I'll give you a free one.
No, just kidding.
Goal. This will be our goal. We'll have to put it up. And,
no. I'm just kidding.
This book is awesome, by the way.
BMD nerd, thanks, man, for grabbing the book. Yes, we did our archetypes issue number 1. I have one here on the wall and one here. Make sure you guys, if you guys were back this, you guys should have be getting these hopefully on Monday. Everybody, we sent out everyone's books, and this is the really cool embossed one with foil on there. Like if I showed you guys, this is cool. We're selling these on our coffee. People say Ko-Fi. We have a coffee page. We're gonna be putting it all on all kinds of other places too, so you guys can grab it like on our website and stuff like that. But if you guys are in the Arizona area, we're gonna be getting the table at UWU. That's UWU this fall, and then we're also gonna be at the AZ Comic Fest, I believe they're calling it, in this fall as well. So keep an eye out for us, and you guys can grab any one of these books from us there. And then we got issue 2 that's gonna be coming out. Ben did show the page there. Issue 2, people that are going to be connected to this. We got Jonathan Hedrick, Adam Barnhart. We have Wesley Gift. All kinds of really great people doing some articles, and Griffith. I even got a story in this one. I told my buddy about a story. He wanted to script it, and then we worked together to script this thing out. So. And we're gonna have Ben do the artwork, the interiors for this one. It's called The Repairman. It has to do with the repairman at a carnival. That's all I'm gonna tell you guys. So if every one of these stories are gonna be spooky themed, because it's gonna be out in Halloween. So we have some really cool fun stuff here with you guys. So make sure you guys do that. I think we're shooting for a really big book. I really want to hit 80 pages on this at least. If we can't hit 80 pages, we're definitely going to get hit past 50, 60 pages. So it's going to be a nice little hefty book there for you guys. So check this. So if you guys are not following this one, please follow now. Head on over to geekcollective.net/archetypes2. And then you guys can hit notify me on launch. Yes, I did say ooh woo. That's my son, guys. All right, so thank you guys for hanging out with us. One last time, please, Judah, let everybody know where they can find you. Give the pitch to your book really fast, and then we're gonna move on to Kayln. You do the same, please.
Charon 13, spy-fi, space espionage, Cold War in space. Kind of like James Bond, but not really. Kind of like Star Wars, but not really. Kind of like Mass Effect, but not really. And you can find it on Kickstarter. And, you want to follow me. I post a lot of, I don't know. I don't really post that much, but you follow me at Trouble Studios or Judah Radd, either or. Send me a friend request. I'll accept, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And I just want to say big thanks to Joey Galvez, Benjamin Morse for spotlighting us and inviting us on the show. Is really good talking to you guys, and it's good seeing your book, Kayln. It looks awesome, and I think it's going to do really well. I'm definitely going to be back in that as well. Anyway, that's all I got to say.
Thank you. And Kayln, please let everybody know where they can find you and quick pitch the book.
Yeah, man. Okay, so Hellboy meets Indiana Jones with, like everyone else, a sprinkle of James Bond. Spy-fi, adventure, mystery, hard-hitting supernatural action. You can find me at Kinetic Comics, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Kayln as well, Kayln Fultz. Like Judah said, thank you, Joey. Thank you, Ben. This was awesome. Had a fun time. Dude, Judah, I'd love to reach out, speak to you, man. Just get to know you. Love your shit. Looks awesome.
Thanks, man.
And Ben, please give us a quick pitch to your book, and then where everybody can find, please.
So August is basically He-Man meets Star Wars, an action-packed sci-fi thriller that remixes the nostalgia of 80s cartoons in a contemporary style. So basically all the best stuff about those, the space opera conventions, and kind of taking some of the nostalgia vibe that we see in the Transformer books from Skybound now that are doing really well, and kind of gives you that sort of feeling in a different package. And you can find that on Kickstarter. You can look at my link tree that's in the description of our show here, and you can find me on Twitter at Benjamin W. Morse and on YouTube at Benjamin Morse, comic book artist.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for watching the show. My name is Joey Galvez. You can find me at Joey Galvez 1984. And please, if you guys are please go check out all these things on Kickstarter. But if you guys can do me a favor, head on over to geekcollective.net/archetypes2 and hit notify me on launch right now, because you guys will be signing up for a 40+ page spooky themed issue of our flagship magazine. It's our little tip to the Wizard magazine of old, with some comics and some articles about comics inside for the geek inside of everybody. So make sure you guys are heading on over to geekcollective.net/archetypes2. Ben, please hit that sweet outro music.